So let's jump right in. What if I told you that in any system, whether it's a factory, a project team, or even just your own to-do list, there's almost always one single thing holding everything else back? Today, we're going to break down a really powerful idea called the theory of constraints. It's a concept that can completely change how you look at getting things done. This right here is the heart of it all. It's a famous quote from Eli Goldrat's book, The Goal. And it's one of those things that sounds simple, but it's actually totally counterintuitive. It means saving an hour on some easy, non-critical task, well, that's just an illusion. It doesn't really help you. But losing 1 hour at that single most critical point, that's an hour your entire system will never, ever get back. So the book kicks off with this story about a guy named Alex Rogo. He's a plant manager, and his factory is in serious trouble. I mean, it's packed with all these fancy modern robots, and everybody seems super busy all the time. But even with all that, orders are months late, inventory is just piling up everywhere, and the whole place is about to be shut down. And this is the big puzzle, right? It just doesn't make sense. It goes against everything we think we know about productivity. That being busy equals being productive. If all the individual parts are running hard, shouldn't the whole system be humming along? Well, Alex Rogo's factory was living proof that the answer is a big, fat no. The big aha moment for Alex doesn't happen in some stuffy boardroom meeting. Nope, it happens on a hiking trip with his son's scout troop. And this simple little analogy, well, it's the key to understanding this entire theory. Okay, so picture this. The whole troop starts hiking. Before you know it, there are these huge gaps in the line. The fast kids are way up ahead and the slow kids are lagging behind. And Alex has this realization, the troop as a whole can only move as fast as its very slowest hiker. It doesn't matter how fast the kid in the front is. The only way to get the entire group to the campsite faster is to speed up that one slow hiker. Maybe help him out by taking some of the heavy stuff out of his backpack. That hiker, he is the bottleneck. So to make this work for a business, Goldrat came up with 3 really important measurements. The first one is called throughput. And this is a super important point. It's not just about how much stuff you make. It's about the rate at which you are actually making money through sales. If you produce something but it doesn't sell, it doesn't count as throughput. Simple as that. Next up, inventory. This is basically all the cash that's tied up inside your system. It's the money you've spent on raw materials and parts for things you plan to sell but haven't sold yet. It's just cash, sitting there, stuck. And Alex's factory, it was practically drowning in inventory. And the last piece of the puzzle is operational expense. This is all the money that's going out the door to make the whole system run. Things like payroll, electricity, rent, all the cash you spend to turn that inventory into throughput. So the goal becomes crystal clear. You want to crank up throughput while pushing inventory and operational expense down. Okay, so that's the theory. But how do you actually do it? How do you put it into practice? Well, Goldrat laid out this really elegant 5-step process for finding and fixing the problem. This is the hands-on toolkit for the theory of constraints. And this whole process is really all about laser focus. First, you find that one single thing that's holding you back. Then you squeeze every last drop of performance out of it without spending a dime. After that, the entire system has to march to the beat of that one constraint. And once you've improved it, a new constraint will pop up, and you just start the cycle all over again. It's a never-ending process of improvement. So how do you find a bottleneck in the real world? Let's look at this example. This table shows us 3 steps in a process. A quick look at the numbers shows that the cutting and assembly steps have plenty of extra time. But then you get to the heating process. It needs 150,000 hours of work, but it only has 120,000 hours available. Boom, there it is. That is our bottleneck. Step 2 is all about exploiting that bottleneck. This means you squeeze every bit of productivity out of what you already have. That machine should never, ever be sitting idle. In the book, they figured out how to keep it running through lunch breaks, through shift changes, you name it. Why? Because every single minute that bottleneck isn't working is a minute of output the entire factory loses forever. Okay, now we get to the step that really messes with people's heads. Subordinate. This means every other part of the system now serves the bottleneck. The old way of thinking says you got to keep every person and every machine busy all the time to be efficient. The new way? Let them be idle. If the machine before the bottleneck works too fast, it just builds up a giant mountain of inventory that chokes the whole system. So get this. Idle time on a non-bottleneck isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's absolutely necessary. And only after you've squeezed every last drop of productivity out of the bottleneck, only then do you move to step 4, elevate. This is where you might actually spend some money to get more capacity. But even then, you get creative first. In the goal, they found some old dusty machines in storage. They weren't as fast, but they could handle some of the bottleneck's workload. And just like that, they got more capacity without spending a penny. All right, so you found your bottleneck. Now what? How does this totally change how you make business decisions? Let's check out a great example of how this plays out when you have to decide which products you should be making to maximize profit. So let's look at this company, Betaco. They make 3 products, E, F, and G. Now, at first glance, if you just look at the throughput per unit, you'd think products E and F are the superstars, right? They both bring in $60 per unit. They seem like the most profitable ones to focus on. But as you've probably guessed, that's not the whole story.
But this is where the magic happens. We have to ask a different question. How much money does each product make for every precious hour it spends at our bottleneck? So when we divide the throughput by the bottleneck time, bam, the whole picture just flips on its head. This one calculation shows you the real power of this way of thinking.
And the winner is product G. Can you believe it? The product that looked like the least profitable is actually the company's real cash cow. It generates $25 for every single hour of that precious, limited bottleneck time. Product E only makes 20, and F is all the way down at 15. This is the kind of aha moment that can literally save a business. So the game plan is clear now. To make the most money, Betaco should make every unit of product G that the market wants first. Then use the remaining bottleneck time to make all of product E. And only then, with whatever little time is left over, should they make any of product F. And that whole idea of prioritizing leads us right into the final and maybe most important part of this whole philosophy. The theory of constraints isn't a one-and-done fix. It's a commitment to a process of ongoing improvement. Check out this example from a company called Catco. At the start, Machine Z is the problem, limiting them to 500 units a week. But look what happens. As soon as they upgrade Machine Z, guess what? A new bottleneck pops up. Now Machine X is the slowest part of the chain, and output is stuck at 600. So they fix X, and now Machine Y becomes the bottleneck. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. And here's another huge takeaway. Just throwing money at the bottleneck isn't always smart. Look at that first line. If Catco only upgraded Machine Z, they'd spend $7.5 million. But the financial gain from the extra output would only be $5 million. They'd actually lose $2.5 million. You have to look at the entire system to know if an investment really makes financial sense. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that you're never really done. The second you solve one constraint, another one is guaranteed to appear somewhere else. The real goal isn't just to fix a single problem. It's to build a culture, a whole system that's always looking for the next constraint and always getting better. And look, this isn't just for factories. This way of thinking works for software development, for marketing, for running a restaurant. You can even apply it to planning out your own week. So I want to leave you with this one question to think about. In your work, in your projects, even in your own life, what's your slowest hiker? Where's your bottleneck?